All right.
That
Okay.
was
So
Doc.
let's lean out. I'll just give you the
Okay.
quick rundown. What we do. It's the kind of stuff that we like to talk about, you know. So as
Yeah.
far out in the weeds as you want to go, nobody's watching. I'm going to talk about stuff that normally bores people, and I'll probably ask you about the etymology of your name, Tracy Lawrence, and or as your friends call you, Tracy Larry, and get into that. Oh, we're rolling. Welcome, I'm Clint Black, and tonight I am talking in circles with my buddy Tracy Lawrence. Welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
The first thing I want to get into is the courage thing. I talked to McGraw, and it was the same with him. I was afraid to come to town before I had someone looking after me, but you made the leap, moved here, with no connections, I guess, and then did some odd jobs, sang in the bars.
You know, when I came to town, I got in town in September of 1990, and I had really put off coming to Nashville. I'd never been here before. I didn't know anybody. I just had a deep passion and a pretty extensive knowledge of traditional country music. I was pretty aware of who the producers were, the songwriters were, the road musicians. I was very up to speed on everything that was going on, but I didn't know what to do. I mean, I rolled into town with about $700 in my pocket. And I got a job hanging vinyl siding in a warehouse over in Portland, Tennessee. Didn't stay there long. I kind of finished up what little bit of job that was, and then I got a job at a temporary service where I could just kind of pick my hours because I didn't come to town to work construction. I came to town to make music. So I started going out every night and going to the clubs and the places where all the road musicians and the songwriters and stuff hung out, which is where I met Tim. Tim and I became friends early on. But I'd get on stage anywhere they'd let me get on stage. And by December of 1990, I had finagled my way onto the show called Live at Libby's over in Daysville, Kentucky. WBVR broadcast the show live back into Nashville on Saturday nights. And they had like an Opry-style show where you'd have an hour of young acts doing a couple of songs with the house band, and then they had their George Jones impersonator and their Johnny Cash impersonator and the whole thing, you know. So I wound up doing that thing, and about 2 or 3 weeks after I'd been doing that show, some executives from Atlantic came over in December to see somebody else that was on the show and liked me better, and the wheels started turning, and yeah, it just happened.
So what kind of temp jobs would you have been taking?
I remember sandblasting weights for scale systems. I remember repackaging canned goods out of wrecked semis. Just all kinds of different random things like that where you
So what do you do when you're cutting open the can with a can opener and pouring it into another can? What does that mean?
Reboxing.
Reboxing.
I actually filed paperwork at Deloitte & Touche for a couple of weeks, which
That's
was
just crazy.
It was
talk.
awful. I actually brought a tie with me.
Did you have to drop the accent?
I just didn't talk much. Yeah.
So Atlantic, you got the Atlantic deal, and you made your first album, and you were gonna get that shot that we're all just like dreaming of. Get your shot at the big time. But first you had to get shot 4 times.
Yeah, I got mugged.
And the odd thing is, because that happened to you, we all knew who you were. You were the most well-known new guy to ever hit the scene. And everyone wanted something good to happen for you because something so bad had happened.
Just to kind of preface that whole thing, I got mugged. I was finishing up the background vocals on Sticks and Stones, and I'd done the last one, and a friend of mine had come through town. We'd gone out to celebrate and was pulling up into the Shoney's parking lot over there, and 3 guys, I opened the car door with a pistol in my face. And so that whole thing went down. She was able to get away. I fought the guys off. They emptied a couple of pistols on me. When I went to the hospital, I had a bullet through the knee, had a bullet in my hip. This finger was kind of half gone. They stitched it all back up, and I got hit and grazed in the upper arm. So I got hit 4 times. But when I woke up, you know who was sitting in my room? Tim McGraw. Tim was there. My buddy was there.
So the suffering just never stopped. That's great. You're lucky that didn't hit an artery.
I was very lucky, and I was angry for a long time because there's dark forces in the world, and I felt like, and to reference a Blues Brothers term, I was on a mission from God, and I had these great plans, and everything was lining up just the way I expected it to line up, and then somebody jerked the rug out from under me, and it took me a long time to let all that stuff go. I've started really trying to put the emphasis on this fact to a lot of people that go through traumatic situations, whether you're assaulted, mugged, any kind of thing that causes PTSD in your life. Get the mental help you need, because it will resurface at some point when you least expect it, and it can cause you a lot of problems in your life over the years to come. You've got to find a way to let that anger go, or that trepidation, or whatever it is that you shove down inside you. And I was so focused on just getting back to where I was that I didn't completely heal mentally or physically. And I just was so anxious to get back on the road, because, you know, in this business, you got a window of opportunity. And when that window starts to close, you might not get a second chance.
Right.
And I was very aware of that. If I didn't get up on my feet and get moving, I knew that I had a small shot, or somebody else was going to get my slot, and I better get up and get after it.
Yeah, because your album was delayed like 7 months release, right?
It was.
And that's the window you're talking about. You could have been shelved.
Or Atlantic could have closed.
They
Atlantic
could have
was kind of
closed or
teetering.
changed the head of the label changes, and they don't like whoever is there or what they have coming. So many things can happen in 7 months.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, so you're laying in the hospital bed, and your big dream. I mean, I remember when I got my break. When I came to Nashville, I met with 2 producers, Kyle Lenning, who wasn't interested, and James Stroud, who for years would call Kyle when he'd get another platinum record and thank you, just got another platinum Clint Black record. And
Well, I'm telling you, y'all may not realize this, but I was living in Louisiana in 1989, and I was playing in a band called Phoenix. We played the circuit all the way through Shreveport, back into Monroe, Louisiana, crossing Arkansas. You know, we hit that whole circuit, and everybody was still working day jobs and everything. But in '89, you got to realize, Clint Black, Killing Time came out, Travis Tritt came out, Mark Chestnut came out, Garth Brooks came out, Vince Gill. There was a whole pack of you guys. And that's when I knew that country was changing. And that's when I started realizing, if I'm going to go, now is the time to go, because everything was lining up. You could feel the music. It was just different. There was so much great stuff coming out, and all these acts were young, and everybody had their own personality, and it was all really good stuff. So I was doing all that stuff early on before I came to town. I mean, all the stuff off your records, all the guys from '89, that was like the launching pad for so many of us that were dreaming the dream. It changed everything.
The records sound great. Now, I know Stroud would always have the greatest engineers. You and I have shared an engineer for years, Julian King, who's not only a master engineer, but has a vibe about him in the studio.
I love
And
Jules.
vibe in the studio is everything. And I know you're pretty particular about which musicians you use.
I am, very
And
much
that
so.
can change everything. If you can't get at least most of the guys you want, you will not record.
I've made a mistake in the past of having half of the guys that I wanted and not being able to get the guitar player I wanted, and said, who's around? It'll be fine, let's do it. And wound up cutting 4 or 5 songs and scrapping every one of them and going back and getting the players that I want and doing a whole new session again.
I know who that guitar player is, and I can tell you that the energy that he brings to the tracking session can influence what everyone else is doing.
Absolutely. We've all had sessions before in the past where you have somebody that's having a bad day or a little sour attitude, and it can throw the whole day off. Those guys typically don't work a lot in Nashville. You know, you do that 2 or 3 times, you're going to get kicked out of the group pretty quick, because it's the karma and the vibe in the room has so much to do with getting the work done. You want it to be a pleasant environment, and you really want to have the best attitudes and the best players that you can have. And sometimes it requires a different style of player for a different type of song. There's times, you know, and I haven't done it yet, but I've got some Western swing stuff that I've written. You know, I'd really like somewhere down the road to do a couple of sides with Asleep at the Wheel, man. You know, because I love Ray, and but that's a whole vibe thing, you know, getting the right players to get the sound that you're looking for.
It's like getting a bluegrass band if you're going to do bluegrass.
Absolutely.
Should we say who that guitar player is?
Everybody knows Brent Mason.
Brent Mason?
Brent Mason is the guy. He is. And there's a lot of great players in town.
But what happens on a tracking session that doesn't happen when someone's overdubbing. It's why it matters in the moment of tracking is that you have 5 to 7 or 8 guys and girls playing, and they're having a conversation. So what I say to you in this conversation is going to impact what you say back. And the same thing is happening in a recording session. So somebody like Brent expressing himself in the song, the dynamics of what he's doing, it's huge.
It is very huge.
It's really big.
And one of the things that he brings to the table, too, he's one of those guys that could come in, and when I do a tracking session, I'm really conscious of when and where I track songs, whether, you come in and you got a 10, a 2, and a 6, or just a 10 and a 2, and you're planning on cutting 4 or 5 songs. The sequence of the tracking process matters. And having the right song at the right time of the day, and whoever's going to be charting that song or whoever's going to be leader on that particular session, if it's a piano-heavy thing, all that stuff matters, and having the flow and the pace of getting all those things to line up just right. That's some of the stuff that I learned from James Stroud about how to manage a session. Another thing, and I don't know if you do this, I'm really particular about being in the moment. If I'm in the studio and we're tracking and my voice is feeling real strong that day, every time somebody does a pass down, I'm doing a vocal. Because tomorrow I might not be the same guy. I'm in that moment. It's just like the guitar tones that you're getting and what's happening in that particular time. If I'm locked in and I'm feeling really strong and everything is just firing on all cylinders, I don't want to lose that energy of that place and time, because I might not ever be able to recreate it.
When you're doing these records, I know you write a lot, but you also take pitches.
I never had the confidence in my songwriting. When I got to town as a 22-year-old kid, I had a notebook full of songs and a box full of cassette tapes and things that I'd played around on. And then I met Paul Nelson, then I wrote with Dean Dillon, and then I realized I was not a songwriter. I realized real quick that I had a long way to go. And so I spent the next several years, until the last few years of my life, when I finally kind of figured out how to piece it all together, how to create the images with the words, how do you paint pictures with the words, and how to create an infectious melody, and how all those things line up. It took me a long time to get there, and I never had confidence. And I would go through always trying to beat my own things out. And, when you're competing song-wise, when you're looking for stuff for an album against some of the most prolific poets in the United States, I mean, that's what these guys are that write every day. It's awful hard to, in your mind, make your own stuff stack up. At least it was for me.
That's why I never listened to outside songs. When I got my management deal, I knew that if I had my way, I was going to really be needing songs. And I had seen an interview with Reba.
Yeah.
And she was saying that she listens to about 1,000 songs to make an album.
Yeah.
And I thought, boy, that sounds really hard. And so when I got that management deal, I set out to try to write as much as I could. And I really wrote as a reaction to things that happened to me, or just some new emotion that I had, and then I would write. And I knew I had to start making it happen. So I ended up with a ratio of about 30 songs written to the 10 I would need for an album. And I always felt like not all of them are hits, but I'm okay with that, because some of my favorite artists, I love the song that was never a single.
Absolutely.
And so that kind of gave me license to not have to have 10 possible radio songs. And so I don't know if that was just my way of saying, I don't have to be that good, or I really just wanted to do the work, and I wanted to have album cuts, and I would tell the record company, I'm going to have 7 singles maybe, but I'm going to have 3 songs on there that nobody's going to care about but me, baby. And sometimes one of those 3 would end up, they would like it and want to release it as a single.
I had a very strange process. You talk about Reba, listen to 1,000 songs. I'd listen to a couple of thousand. And I did a lot of my own A&R work through the 90s.
Trying to 1,000 up Reba?
Absolutely.
Is that what we're doing here now?
So I got a cassette player on the bus that had a VSO on it that you could speed up and slow down. Everything came from Atlantic in mailboxes. We'd get a mailbox, and all the stuff would come in just cassette after, because someone would have 2 or 3 songs, someone would have 20 songs on them. So I would make it my mission when I would sit down to go through that box of cassettes, and I'd listen to everything on it. I might not get past the first verse, first verse, chorus. But anything that I kept that I even kind of somewhat liked, I'd put it over in this pile. And then at the end of that listening session, I would put everything down that I'd kept on one mixtape, and I'd adjust the speeds of it, kind of how it fit. And I would listen to that and see what my burn factor was on all those songs. How many times, how many repetitive listens that I could go through till I got tired of hearing it. As soon as I got tired of hearing it, it got bumped off the cassette. And I would go through that process through several months leading up to recording that album. By the time I got where I was going in the studio, I'll have 20 songs on a cassette to cut 10 or 12 on an album. And I would know the sequence. I would know where they were going to fit, how much time I wanted between. I knew the whole layout. When I walked in the studio, I was that prepared.
Wow.
Always.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Always.
That's amazing. I'm imagining that you're still not burned out on Time Marches On.
No, man.
No burn factor. No burn factor there.
Time Marches On to me is the best lyric I've ever recorded.
I was playing that for Lisa, and she's heard it a bunch before, but it's been a while. And so she was going, oh, yeah, and listening. And somehow me sharing that with her in that moment had a different impact. And I started to get emotional, and I stopped it, and I'm reciting one of the lyrics in it, and I got choked up. And I think it's because it really did such a great job of looking at a lifetime of these people.
Yes.
And that song, man, I just know when you heard that song, that was in a pile by itself and was not moving off of that pile.
That one, after the first 3 albums, I went over to Don Cook to produce that 4th album, and he had been working with Brooks and Dunn. And Don's office was over at Sony Tree. And I was sitting in front of his desk. We were sitting there talking songs. I think we were still a couple of months away from going in the studio, but we were trying to start getting all of our songs in order and everything. And Bobby Braddock comes in. You know, Bobby's office is there at Sony Tree, and the studio's downstairs, and they do all their demos and stuff there. So Bobby bounces in. I got this. I got to play for you right now. You know how Bobby is. And he played it, and it's like, I'll put it on hold right now. Absolutely. There's no second guessing. I mean, the imagery of that song, Bobby Braddock wrote this by himself. And if you look back through his history, he wrote Texas Tornado. He wrote He Stopped Loving Her Today. The list goes on. A 50-year career.
Yeah.
So the way that he put that song together to be able to talk about multiple generations in a family and express that in such a tapestry with words for 3.5 minutes is one of the most amazing pieces of art that I've ever had the privilege of being a part of. And it is a piece of art to me. I felt very blessed. I was at the right place at the right time. He had just got it off the mix and brought it right up there, and I just happened to be sitting at the right spot when it came through.
You sure were.
Because 30 minutes later, it'd have been a Brooks and Dunn song.
Yeah.
Because he went right to Ronnie next.
Yeah. One of the things that happens on the road when we go out on tour, we're just, we call it high school with money, or grown-ups without real jobs, because we didn't have to really grow up, and it shows. And we get out, especially when we do package tours or we're touring with a buddy, and you get a bunch of musicians together, you know, practical jokes.
Oh, yeah.
It got out of hand on my tour, and I kept telling the guys, retribution is hell. Just so you know, the more you escalate this, the worse it's going to get.
And who's going to quit first?
That's right.
I don't know how to stop. That's the problem.
Yeah, it really got out of control, and then it stopped. So you got to have at least one great one.
Bird still hasn't got me back for this. So this was the last big tour that he and I did together.
I'll give him some ideas.
Yeah. We were finishing up in Florida. We had an outside show, and when we got there that morning, I got 1,000 ping pong balls in a net. We dropped ping pong balls on him. We had pies on stage. We had flats of eggs, the whole thing, and that was sufficient enough. But when he got off stage and went to the bus, we strode 1,000 crickets on his bus.
Wow.
From back to front. There were crickets everywhere. He was so mad at me.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to come retaliate. He just got on the bus. He was mad. He said it took days. They had to park it. It's like summertime. They had to park it somewhere on a lot and crank the heater wide open. He said they were down the walls.
Well, all in all, we've done pretty well for a couple of bass players, right?
Pretty good.
I was a bass player. You were a bass player.
I was more of a halfway drummer. You know.
halfway drummer. So
yeah.
only halftime stuff. I was
Yeah.
lead bass player.
Were you
in my
really?
band, which just means I played too many notes to be bass player.
It was
And,
jazz.
it was jazz, yeah. Jazz Odyssey. Well, I have one more question for you.
Uh-oh, this is the good one, isn't it?
This is the good one.
Okay.
When you get to heaven,
Okay.
if you could play a song with anyone who's already there, who would it be and what song would you play?
Keith Whitley, No Stranger to the Rain.
Yes, sir. You are no stranger to the rain, but I hope you remain a stranger to heaven for a long, long, long time.
You too, my
Because we
friend.
like having you here. Tracy Lawrence.